Well, hello, St. Thomas. In today's gospel, we have the miracle of the fishes and loaves. This particular story appears 3 times in the Gospels. And it is a really important telling of a story, and it has so much to do with our life and ministry in this congregation, but also in what each of you do in the community. I want to start by thinking about the word compassion. The word compassion has its roots in Latin, with the first part being something that means to be with, to be with something. The second root, the word passion, has to do with suffering. So the literal meaning of the word is to be with suffering, or to be with someone in their suffering. I think that's something that's important for us in this time and in this moment in the world. Right before this particular part of the gospel happens, Jesus experiences suffering. His cousin, his friend, the one who baptizes him in the Jordan, had just been killed, and he had just gotten the news. And his response to that is to get away from the crowds and to go be by himself in a quiet place. Think about that for a minute. Jesus, the one that we say is the Son of God, shows us his humanity, his grief. And in that moment, while he's alone, people still seek him. They come to hear his teaching. They come to be near him. They come to partake in his miracles. And what is Jesus' response? Not to pull back, not to be afraid, not to say, get them out of here. But what does he do? He heals. He sees their hunger, and he leads them into a moment of abundant life in the miracle of the sharing of the loaves and fishes. He doesn't shame them. He doesn't say, you should have thought ahead. He doesn't say, go away. He shows compassion. He is with them even in the midst of his own suffering. He is with them in their suffering, in their illnesses, in their hunger, in their desire for knowledge and love of God. This week has been a challenging week in the greater culture. We continue to have attempts at peaceful protest interrupted with violence. We lost 2 of the great figures of the civil rights movement in the Honorable John Lewis and also in C.T. Vivian. We had a policy change in which low-income housing will be excluded from places of new development. There's a lot of work to do around our own compassion with our fellow human beings. I think we're all discerning and trying to figure things out. We're trying to understand the forces and principalities that are moving in the greater culture. And at times, we probably feel out of control. Parents and students, teachers and principals and administrators are working hard to make decisions about education, about keeping schools safe, about what is life-giving for students, but also marred in fear of a disease. What would the crowd say to Jesus right now if he were in front of us? If we had sought him out in his own suffering, what might we plead for? It probably depends on who we are. If we're poor, we might seek relief from those stresses. We might be seeking food. We might be seeking shelter. if we're unknowing, if we're afraid, we might be seeking knowledge and assurance and a sense of peace. If we're sick, we might be seeking healing. If we're wealthy, we might be seeking release from all that holds us back from who we truly are. There's so many things that we could seek from Jesus, but what would Jesus do? He would look on us with compassion. He would look on us and be with us in our suffering. And what would he give us? Healing and loaves and fishes. In other words, life. He would give us something that is life-giving and life-building. I wonder what would happen if we held that very ethic at the center of the decisions we make, both in our personal lives, but also in the greater community. Are the decisions we're making, are the policies we're putting in force, are the things we're doing with our family and friends, in our work, in our vocations, are they life-giving and life-building? You see, part of the wonderment of the story of the loaves and fishes is that Jesus is there and he sees the suffering, and he has, in one telling of the story, a young boy comes with the loaves and fishes, and others, the apostles, go and get it out and find it from the crowd. But they bring forward this, and in the miracle, the food becomes overabundant. One interpretation that I tend to favor is that all the people had food with them, because in that day and time, you would have traveled with what you needed, and they began to share. They began to give each other what they needed. And from that grew an abundance. We have so much to think about, and we have hard work to do in our society. I think as Christians, it's pretty clear that we honor life. And we certainly want a situation in which those communities that are crying out for help, that they receive that. In Black Lives Matter, the main cry is to have an equal playing field, to not suffer death. In the housing situations, it is to have a home that is safe, that provides shelter and safe schools. In our education system, it is for us to have students who are equipped for a fulfilling life, to be able to think, to work, and to move in society. In our work and in our neighborhoods, it is to do the work that we're called to do safely. In science, it is to find cures and protection from this deadly virus moving around us. As disciples, it is a call for us to move throughout our life with compassion. What if we do the hard work to understand what happens in Black lives? What if we take the time to learn the impact of poverty in our society? What if we reach out to students, parents, teachers, and administrators and have compassion with them in the situation they're in? What if? What if? What if? What if we live the fishes and loaves story and know that probably we have enough in our life that we can share abundantly with the community around us? I think this is the challenge of the story today. Jesus loses his cousin, his friend, the one who baptized him, and he has suffering. And from that, he has compassion. And from that grows an abundance. Can you have compassion? Can you be with those in their suffering? Amen.